Hello and welcome back, and that is right, look at this. This is the Asustor Lockerstor Gen2 Plus. This is a slight refresh of the existing Lockerstor Gen2 series, knocking around for largely the same price. I've seen it for about $10 or $20 more. It's also available in a 2-bay and a 6-bay variation. And in this video, I'm going to help you decide whether this solution is best for you and your data. We've talked about Lockerstor before. We've talked about other solutions from Asustor in the past. But maybe you've already got one of their solutions and thinking of upgrading. Maybe you're thinking of jumping ship from another brand. Maybe you're sick of DIY and you just want to go easy. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why the Lockerstor Gen2 Plus might well be the best NAS for your needs. But I'm also going to give you 3 reasons why it isn't. There's going to be some of you wondering, wait, you're going to say 5 good things, 3 bad things? That's a bit uneven. Trust me, those 3 are absolute humdingers to go for. But at least for now, let's crack on with number 1. Almost certainly you already know this, but the Gen2 Plus series arrives with 5 gigabit networking by default, 2 5-gig ports for that matter. There are brands right now, Synology, who are at the moment singing praises about finally adding 2.5 gig years after everyone else. And right now, Lockerstor have upgraded their existing series to 5 GBE, which, let's face it, got to give them credit for. To maintain that price point is respectable. To maintain the price of previous generations, or at the very least meet the industry pricing, more on that later on, I will say that it is good that they've included it also with link aggregation, getting that extra performance potential. Yes, there are going to be users out there that say, what's the point of 5 GBE? None of my gear is 5 GBE. There are a lot of people out there with 10 gig with auto negotiation, and this will allow them to be able to at least take advantage of the existing bandwidth rather than be capped down to 2.5 GBE or spending more on a 10 gig solution. It's not for everyone, but at the very least having that option in here is going to be appealing for some out there. And also the combination of hard drive and SSD bays means that there is the potential throughput to saturate that fully or pretty much. Again, we'll cut back round to that in a moment. Now, if you've already watched my reviews of the Lockerstor series, you're probably going to know a lot of the pluses anyway. But for the rest of you, I do think they're worth touching on. Number 1, although this applies again to the 2-bay and the 6-bay, and we're focusing on the 4 here, all 3 of those in the Gen 2 Plus series have got 4 M.2 bays there inside. So although you're looking at a 4-bay NAS solution here, what you're actually looking at is an 8-bay solution with 4 M.2 bays there based in the top that allow you to add on Gen 3 times 1 speed each, so around 800 to 900 megabytes per second each. The ability to RAID those together or have 2 bays to be utilized for something like SSD caching and the other 2 for storage pools. There are great options there built into it within the NAS operating system to make the most of those 4 additional storage bays. And there is options on the PCIe accessories list to swap that out. For example, this is their combo card. This allows you to remove the card that's inside there because there is on the 4 and 6 bay a little cavity there at the top that allows you to install a 10 gig NIC instead of that SSD card, or this combo card again with 2 M.2s and a 10 gig connection allows you to really stretch the muscles of what you're going to be able to do before this system. Keep in mind, much like the 5 GBE and the 2.5 gig that came before it, they were the first brand to rock out this kind of architecture when the rest of the turnkey NAS market sort of came into it upwards of a year later. They're one of the first to rock out 5 gig connected turnkey NAS solutions in the market, and they were the first to rock out this solution with 4 M.2s there. Gotta give them credit. Remaining here on the rear of the system, I just wanted to also highlight, you see that HDMI output there? Asustor are one of the few brands that still maintain the HDMI parallel user interface on their systems, known as Portal. Now, it is by no means the primary target, a lot of their research and development, but with so many NAS solutions rocking out in the market with an HDMI output, many of them, for example, TerraMaster, who do nothing with that port, or you have brands such as Ugreen that allow you to use their video application and you still need to use a remote control to output video media via that port. And even QNAP, who have a parallel HDMI software called HD Station, which is an app-based user interface from your sofa running parallel to the NAS, they have really cut down on their support on that, with numerous applications on the QNAP side failing to function. Asustor is still maintaining that HDMI output. Again, nowhere near as much as they support the ADM software, but the fact that this system has the network management UI and UX in ADM, and alongside that running parallel Asustor Portal, which can be controlled with an infrared remote control or a mobile app, running as a separate interface for media, for VMs, containerized applications that are utilizing it, needs to be applauded. Next up, this point is definitely going to be a contentious one, so maybe I'm wazzing in the wind here. I like the design. The design in 2026 still holds up. There's still one of the few NAS brands that even in their kind of featured entry series for Intel, utilizes a metal chassis for dissipation. The trays, metal trays all the way through. The chassis is metal all the way around. The cooling system is huge. They're on the rear. Ventilation on practically every single side. Ventilation all the way through the individual trays for that matter as well. An LCD panel, but not just an LCD panel with full control. You can set this puppy up just with that interface, although you will use the default admin password and username, but still, you can set this device up with no client device. Again, bright LEDs all the way along the front, a click and load, nice touch USB here that's integrated into the USB port for one touch copy. This system, for me, the design still holds up. It's not for everyone, and arguably adds a slightly 2026 classical server desktop design, but for me, I like that. It's not the quietest, and certainly it's not the smallest, but I like that they've maintained this design. And as you look at the design of the Lockerstor series over the last few years, they have tweaked it in places and improved the cooling in some places depending on the CPU inside, Lockerstor Gen2. I like this design. Do you remember earlier when I said Asustor were the first in some places and need to get the credit for that when other people follow that lead? Well, installing a third-party NAS operating system, your TrueNAS, your Unraid, your Open Media Vault and more, you can do that on this without invalidating the hardware warranty. Now, you might be hearing me say that and go, well, big whoop. All of the brands have done that. You know, everyone does that these days. One, not everyone does that these days. But two, Asustor were the first turnkey NAS brand to later do that. They support right of repair. They do a lot more in terms of you buy this solution, use our software, or do whatever the hell you want, and we'll honour that hardware warranty. They do that loudly and more proudly than most of the brands out there. Yes, we are talking specifically about the Lockerstor Gen2 Plus series, but I do think that credit has to go on this and the wider series, that when you buy this, you, and I'm going to swear now, cover your ears, you can fuck around all you want. And in most cases, your hardware warranty is still solid as a rock. Now, if all you want is positivity, I'd leave the video now. Because remember earlier I said 5 good things? Well, now we've got to get on to 3 things about this that really, realistically are going to put a lot of users off. So let's crack on. This is going to seem remarkably mean-spirited, but the problem is, we got to talk about it. The software this arrives with, ADM, is very dull. And I know we are still talking about NAS servers, we're talking about storage, and some of you don't care about bells and whistles, and you are just looking for something to shut up and do its job, and I get that. But we are entering a world of interesting home lab. We are looking at NAS software right now from the majority of DIY and turnkey NAS players with true, beautiful innovation, not just AI stuff that some people don't want, where you integrate local AI deployments there. But we're talking about things like flexible RAID configurations where you can mix and match drives. We're talking about ZFS integration. Again, AI photo recognition, AI surveillance integration there with it. Premier League grade NAS software for backups, things like Active Backup for Business, or even bloody TerraMaster's TerraSync. There's just an over-reliance for things like third-party apps like the VM tool. they're still using VirtualBox. A lot of the key apps are still handed over to third parties rather than first party in-house. And I know some of you aren't going to care because you're either going to buy this device to use third-party NAS operating system, or you only wanted it for simple, functional, stable NAS software that shuts up and does its job. And in that arena, this thing's great. But I also know there are users looking at solutions like this for the software experience. And Asustor run a stable but arguably uninteresting platform compared to other options in the market, and I just thought it was valid to point that out. Do you remember earlier when I mentioned that the Lockerstor Gen2 Plus series is either the same or a fraction more than the Gen2 standard class at most of the retailers I looked at? Well, we still need to address the fact that this thing is more expensive than it should be in 2026. I get it, RAM prices are up, but the consistent pricing on this, it's $469 for the 2-bay and $619 for the 4-bay. That's over $600, so $619 there for the 4-bay solution, and that is just too expensive with other options in the market. Now, I get it. Asustor can't just wave a magic wand and lower their prices. They've had to obviously weigh out money for these solutions at production. They have to have a certain threshold. But this thing is more expensive than the Synology DS925 Plus, which is, yes, doesn't have 5 gig. It's got 2.5 gig. But that's got ECC memory. That thing's got DSM on board. It's got a 4-core, 8-thread file processing focused CPU. It doesn't have the integrated graphics one this has, but for a Synology 4-bay, for their fully featured premium 4-bay, to be cheaper than this is insane to me. On top of that, we can look at, again, we've mentioned TerraMaster, we can look at QNAP, we can look at bloody Minis Forum. These brands have all got 4 and 5 bay solutions in the market that have got similar or better hardware than this for less or just a fraction more of the price. And it went for the 2-bay to be $469 right now, when there are featured Intel-powered quad-core 2-bays with or without software retailing for $300 to $400, and this 2-bay cranks $469. They're just asking too much money right now for their solutions. And a number of you have almost certainly taken to the comments already, and if you haven't, more respect to you, but we've got to talk about that CPU. This thing arrives with the Intel Celeron N5095. I mentioned in the introduction, this is a slight modified refresh of the existing Lockerstor Gen2 series, and it's using the same CPU there. But that CPU is showing its age. Right now in 2026, again, we talked about similar pricing, the Twin Lake and Alder Lake series of processors, the N100, the N150, the N305, the N355, these are 4-core and 8-core integrated processors right now with very low TDPs, the same level of lanes available to them in terms of internal architecture. There's 5 gig solutions, 2.5 gig solutions, but crucially, that CPU, even Intel have turned their back on the Lunar Lake series. They have long since killed off Celeron processors. And although I'm not strictly criticizing this refresh for having the same CPU as the device it's refreshing, we have to at least acknowledge that in 2026, for the same price point, there are better CPU solutions out there for you. And that CPU is quite a low kind of throttling overhead there. That CPU, by the way, which again I believe is a 2.0 to 2.9 gigahertz CPU that can, again, starts at 2.0 that can be burst up to 2.9. A lot of the Twin Lake and Alder Lake CPUs that I just mentioned there have got an exceptionally low base power that can be burst to higher than this when needed. In terms of efficiency, that is beautiful. The same goes for the level of integrated graphics, by the way. They just have a higher clock on both than the Intel Celeron inside this. That is in terms of NAS releases, that is a 2022 to 2023 series CPU, and it is 2026. So again, keep that in mind when investing your money in, because although this is a solid, stable system, I am not going to say that that processor inside is winning any awards right now. The Lockerstor Gen 2 Plus series is a solid foundation for you and your data, but it is not groundbreaking, and it feels like a mid-series refresh. When you look at Asustor's range of solutions that they refresh every few years, we've seen it with the Flashstor going into the Flashstor Gen 2, the Lockerstor into Lockerstor Gen 2 into Gen 3. This does not feel like a meaningful refresh, and I know it's not supposed to be. It's just meant to be a 5 gig upgrade to keep it relevant. I get it. But Asustor really need to look at being more competitive with their hardware. This arrives with the same CPU, by the way, as the Nimbustor Gen 2 series. You can make a saving of around $100 to $120 by getting this solution without 5GBE. You miss out on some features, but it's still 4 gig SODIMM, it's still 4 times M.2 with 4 SATA bays there on the front. It's a good solution and cheaper than this. The real thing here is, do you need 5 gigabit networking that much when there are 10 gig solutions out there from Asustor themselves and others, or should you just wait it out for the next bigger refresh from the brand? Ultimately, as I say, a good, solid solution, but not for everyone. But you've got to give credit to Asustor for the way they've conducted their business and their range of solutions and innovations. It's just this might not be the most innovative of the lot. Let me know what you guys think below in the comments. On top of that, if you found this video helpful, if you want to buy any of the solutions I've talked about today, and if you're going to go to the stores listed below in the description, please use those links in order to do so. It costs you nothing extra to do it, but it results in a small commission coming here to NAS Compares. Just me and Eddie here around the guides, the reviews, the comparisons, the support section and more, and it allows us to keep doing what we do. It's how you support creators in the most passive, non-friction way possible. But that's up to you, and make sure those 3 things are true. I'll see you next time.